Because they're gonna,
Yeah,
they're gonna live stream.
that's right.
It's all Kat, my cousin.
When they're all finished, so if I can have you take seats for now, you'll have a chance later today to be with the family. Thank you.
Mark, are there a couple of seats?
Yes, all right, good. I have to come up with another project for you.
All right.
No, that's fine. No, that's cool. But you can see the side of it, it's not the front. So. What? You can have 15 minutes if you have to. You don't have to yet. Yeah. What? 90 minutes every time. If you have your phone with you, please put it on silent or turn it off. Thank you. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Nairobi, Loesa. Minante sheyar bitsen yamein ruchan yenachalei. Nafshi yishovei. Yanacheni v'malei tzadek v'ma'an shemo. Gam ki helech v'gitzamar. Lo yirah ki ata imadi. Shivtecha mishantecha ema yanachamoni. Ta'aruch lefanai shulchan Turirai Vishanta Vashamen Roshi Kosir Vaya Achto Vachased Yudifuni Koyam Bechayai Vishaveti Beveit Aronai Le'orech Yami. Friends, I've chanted for you the words of our 23rd Psalm. In these moments when our hearts are breaking, in these moments when we seek comfort and strength, we often will turn to the psalmist. And so at this time, I invite those of you who wish to join me as we recite together the words of comfort. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we will remember him. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we will remember him. In the opening buds and in the rebirth of spring, we will remember him. In the blueness of sky and in the warmth of summer, we will remember him. In the rustling of leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we will remember him. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we will remember him. When we are weary and in need of strength, we will remember him. And when we are lost and sick at heart, we will remember him. When we have joys we yearn to share, we will remember him. So long as we live, he too will live, for he is now a part of us, as we remember Michael Borkan. To you, Christy, to his daughters, to Jesse, Sarah, and Anna, and also to Ben and Jimmy, to his sister and brother-in-law, Ellen and Chick, to his brothers-in-law and sisters-in-law, Mike and Karen and Steve and Sherry, and to so many members of the family, and to so many dear and cherished friends. We gather here today, brokenhearted, to remember, but also in search of the strength to celebrate the life of your beloved Mike. Our sages in their wisdom have taught us that birth is a beginning and death a destination, and life is a journey from childhood to maturity and from youth to age, from innocence to awareness, and from ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion, and then perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength, or strength to weakness, and often back again, from health to sickness, and back, we pray, to health again, from offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion, from grief to understanding, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, until, looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey, stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning and death a destination, and life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage to life everlasting. Michael's journey of 71 years began in Newark, New Jersey. He was born on April 28, 1952, to Gerald and Doris Borkan. Michael and you, Ellen, his baby sister, the two of you first grew up in Roselle before your family finally settled in Westfield, New Jersey. I know that Michael would mention throughout the years that while he was 10 years old when the family moved away from Roselle, this was actually his favorite place. It's where he met one of his dearest friends, his next-door neighbor, Jackie. Jackie and Mike were babies in the playpen together, and they grew to be lifelong friends, and I believe Jackie and her husband are here with us today. And Michael's daughters will forever recall the stories that their dad would tell them about his New Jersey childhood and his teenage adventures, memories and stories about growing up in New Jersey and the amazing times that their dad would have riding his bike and sledding down the hill known as Speeding Hill. Ellen, do you remember Speeding Hill? Michael would share these stories with his girls with great wonder and great awe. And then one day Michael took his family, he took Christy and his daughters to New Jersey, and he brought them to this landmark known as Speeding Hill. And they saw the hill, which was maybe at a 5% incline. So while this magical place was now, this magical place that was once a thrill of a lifetime place for Michael, it just was a place that gave him the happiest of times. Following his graduation from Westfield High School, Michael was in pursuit of his passion for music, and he began hitchhiking around the country, following the bluegrass music scene. He soon ended up in Clearwater, Florida, where he found a job in construction. He then tried to hitchhike to Woodstock, but ended up among the thousands who were stranded in Woodstock's infamous traffic jam. Eventually, Mike returned to his family in New Jersey, where he obtained his commercial driver's license, and he began driving semis throughout New Jersey and New York. And he really enjoyed this job, especially when the driving was at its toughest, and that would be when he was driving through the heart of New York City. I was informed that a couple of summers ago, right here in Little Italy, I think it was during the time of the feast, Mike and his family were down in Little Italy during the feast, and a semi-truck, I think carrying soft drinks, was unable to maneuver through the overcrowded street. Mike was watching for a while. Finally, he got in the truck, and Christy and the girls watched as their dad and husband maneuvered this truck, turned things around, and helped this poor driver in need. While he was in New Jersey, he made the choice to attend the Union County Technical School, as he discovered he had an interest in the heating and cooling realm. He studied and he became a licensed HVAC contractor. It was around this time that Michael decided he was done with New Jersey, he was done with the weather, the cold, and in 1980 he got into his car and he began heading west to Arizona to see his friends Mike and Lucy. Mike's plan was to find a job living in the warm Arizona sun. On the way to Arizona, as he was approaching the Ohio state line, Mike remembered he had a friend living in Cleveland. And he decided he would stop and surprise the friend, grab a cup of coffee, and get back on the road. That little coffee break turned into a few days. And then Mike saw a sign in a storefront window stating that there was a job opening for an HVAC person. He got the job. Several months passed, and Mike then moved into an apartment on Coventry. And he met a great group of friends there, and among these friends was his very own Christy Edwards. This group of friends would meet daily at Arabica for coffee. And Christy, you shared that in these early days of your friendship, Mike would call you almost every day at 7 a.m. And he'd say something like, okay, we're all going to Arabica's, let's go. And everyone would meet up for coffee at the shop. And they'd do this before beginning their workday. Eventually, you and Mike moved to different apartments, and it was then that the two of you began dating. A courtship ensued, and love blossomed. Christy, you then decided to go off to grad school in Delaware. And you were there for 2 years, and during these 2 years, Mike would drive numerous times to come and visit you. I think sometimes he would say, Mike Atkins, driver. That was his special handle. And he would call you long distance every day, and this was before long distance was a free type of a thing. He would call you every day, but more important than the drives and the calls, he wrote you these beautiful, heartfelt letters on his typewriter. And you shared with me that it was through these letters that you really got to know the real Mike Borkan. The two of you married on August 16th, 1987, in your hometown of Wellington, Ohio. Christy, you've shared 35 years of marriage together. And in these 35 years, some of your greatest loves and shared passions, including visiting family. This was so important to both of you. You like to go camping and hiking, especially in the Hocking Hills. You had a beautiful visit to the Green Mountains in Vermont. You love to dine out, especially for Mike, Italian food. And he loved his coffee and his coffee ice cream, or as he would call it, coffee. But what you saw in Mike, Christy, was that he had this magnetic, wonderful sense of humor. You saw him as someone who was playful. You described him as a child at heart. You recalled the puppet shows he would put on for his daughters with the Beanie Babies. He loved taking his children on bike rides and to the beach, and whenever he would play softball, he would take the playpen so that he could show off the girls. Christy, in the relationship, you were the more serious one, and this was really good for Mike. And Mike, apparently they know Mike. But he was the free spirit, and Christy, this was really good for you. And so together you found your way, you had that perfect blend. And in all that the two of you did together, nothing brought him and you more joy than your family. When Jesse and Sarah and Anna entered into your world, this Borkan family portrait became so much more complete and all the more beautiful. His daughters described their dad as a master of trivia, a man with an incredible memory, a photographic memory. In his work, he knew everyone's address, all of his customers' addresses. He knew their phone numbers by memory. He knew how many kids they had. He knew if they had pets. And if he might forget what the outside of a house looked like, as soon as he was in the basement, he knew exactly where he was. Your dad's business, Mike's Heating and Cooling. This was his career, of course, but it was so much more than that. Your dad, at his core, loved to help people. I have to ask, how many people in the room today were helped by Mike? Oh my goodness. Okay. He loved his customers. He loved when he could help anyone in need, but he especially thrived if there was an emergency situation. If it was the middle of the night or the dead of winter and you had no heat, and if you had no heat and especially had a newborn baby, it was Mike to the rescue. In his own special way, he was a bit of a superhero. Your dad retired about 5 years ago following a heart attack. But retirement, not totally. Because Because if he could get on the phone with one of his customers and talk them through how to fix something, he was there for them still. He also told you that if he would have gone to college, he would have probably majored in social work. He always was really concerned about the good and welfare of others. And while he did not end up having a career as a social worker, he did help so many people in a myriad of ways. Mike cared about all of you because he was a people person. He cared about you, he cared about your children, he cared about your lives. He had a zest for life, and no matter where he was in whatever phase of his life, and no matter whatever health challenge he faced, he always wanted to live. I want to read something to you that his daughter Jessie emailed to me. She wrote the following. My dad was larger than life, and for much of my childhood I believed he knew everyone and could do anything. I loved being with him, and because he worked outside of the house, it felt we could never get enough daddy time. And she puts in parentheses, my poor mother. Jessie continues and writes, and yet I feel very clear on this. Our family and his daughters were the center of his life. I think having us and watching us grow and succeed healed a lot of wounds from an adolescence and young adulthood that held some pain for him. He created a family with my mom where he could feel safe and beloved and needed and connected. A business that allowed him purpose and pride. And he gave absolutely everything he had to us and to the new community he found here in Cleveland. When I was in first grade, it was time to attend our first Harvest Hoedown, also known as Halloween party, at my new elementary school, Coventry. I wanted to go as a pink princess that year, and both of my younger sisters followed suit. Not one to be left out. My dad found a bridesmaid's dress at a thrift shop that would fit his frame, and he joined us as pink princesses with a tiara on his bald head. We always wanted to be just like him, and he wanted to be one of us too, and he was. Friends, we know that Mike was many things, and as the obituary states, he was a loving and dutiful brother, son, uncle, and cousin, loyal and much-loved friend, a proud New Jersey native, a devoted 43-year Cleveland Heights resident, an HVAC whiz, and the man behind Mike's Heating and Cooling, which was established in 1983. He was a committed coffee shop patron, a pizza connoisseur, and always on an endless search for the perfect slice. Prolific and irreverent storyteller, a lifelong lover of music, animals, garlic, and a good steam. He was an independent spirit, a family man, a funny man, a heating man, a singular human being. Mike navigated his illness and passed by the same principles with which he navigated his life, with wild optimism, focus on the presence, defiance in the face of difficult odds, tender connection with his family and friends, and a healthy respect for the mysteries of life. Our tradition has always taught us that words which come from the heart often enter straight to the heart. His three daughters have words which they want to share from their hearts with all of us today. And so first I would like to call on his daughter, Sarah.
Hey everybody, what a crowd. I can't say I'm surprised at all. Everyone says that grieving is the hardest thing, and to some degree, I think my family fully understand that it would be extremely sad when Dad went. But as many of you know, nothing can prepare you for the stress and pain, and sometimes it comes in the most unexpected ways. During this time, many of you have reached out to us and sent pictures and stories, and it has brought so much honor to his memory. He was too full of life to forget, and every picture and story helps us to remember that He was so good and spent his life doing something that I consider to be really, really honorable. Many knew of my dad's rough exterior, and you know, I will spare us for raising your hand if Mike ever hurt your feelings. We can talk about that later. But you guys also knew that you had to love him or you were going to kill him. But those who really knew him knew that when it came down to it, he showed up. He saved the day. He helped in small ways and big ways, and in a way that I think a lot of us protect our own peace. You know, I can't leave family dinner because somebody else is having an emergency, but not Mike. And we all know that he didn't know everything, but he knew more than most humans do. And he used that knowledge to help as many people as he could. And as we all know, his jokes were most often the thing that we needed. Thank you to my daddy, who, for good or for bad, was the biggest influence in terms of becoming who I am. Thanks to all of you for all the ways this community has raised our family up and supported us during this hard time. Every time I opened a video or a photo or heard a story I never heard before, it helped me to know that, you know, he's exactly what, you guys confirmed to me exactly what I already knew about my daddy. And he's alive and well in all of us, and you know, for good or for bad, me being like my dad means that I'll be reminded every day of how great he was. And you know, my closing statement is, you guys can try, but I don't think I'll ever find another human that will make me laugh as hard as my dad. So, but I do encourage you to try it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I now want to call on his daughter, Jessie, who has a poem to share with us.
Even in his final months, my dad was like, I'm not going anywhere. Why is everyone upset? I'm not dying. And that was confusing. But I came across this poem. I wish I had been able to share it with him when he was alive, because it feels like what he was trying to tell me. It's called Death is Nothing at All by Henry Scott Holland. Death is nothing at all. I have only slipped away to the next room. I am I, and you are you. Whatever we were to each other, that we still are. Call me by my old familiar name. Speak to me in the easy way which you always used. Put no difference into your tone, wear no forced air of solemnity or sorrow. Laugh as we always laughed, at the little jokes we enjoyed together. Play, smile, think of me. Pray for me. Let my name be ever the household word that it always was. Let it be spoken without effect, without the trace of a shadow on it. Life means all that it ever meant. It is the same that it ever was. There is absolute, unbroken continuity. Why should I be out of mind because I am out of sight? I am but waiting for you, for an interval, somewhere very near, just around the corner. All is well.
Thank you, Jessie. Finally, I want to call on his daughter, Anna.
Such a comment.
calls. You probably wouldn't retire until you were in your 90s. Even then, you'd continue to diagnose people's furnace problems over the phone. We'd throw you a party to celebrate all the years that Mike's Heating and Cooling was what it was. And you'd hate it, because you never liked it when we threw parties for you. But I think part of you would like it and feel proud of what you made of your career. If you were here, I probably still wouldn't really understand what pipe dope is. Or how to use it, but I take the time to listen to you explain it to me. If you were here, you'd be as strong as you always were. We'd hike around Talking Hills. We'd swim at Holiday Sands. We'd road trip to New York, and I'd finally succeed at getting up early enough to leave the house and walk for hours with you before anyone else was even awake, watching the city come to life. Or maybe we'd do it here, and we'd go to Al's Diner or the Stone Oven. You'd get grits, and I'd eat some of them even though they're not my favorite. You'd be playing softball at Forest Hills or at Bedford, and we'd come watch you. Sarah and I spending our $3 at the snack bar. Splitting our sweet snacks and our savory. We drive around town, and I wouldn't be too embarrassed to sing at the top of my lungs to Frankie Valley. I'd take you for a corned beef sandwich or an ice cream cone, and I'd sit and split it with you, while you try to ask me to help you remember how to save a photo to your gallery and send it to someone in a text message. I'd let you take me along for one last service call, riding in the passenger seat of your truck. If you were here, you'd be dressing up for Halloween and attending Coventry Peace School's annual Harvest Hoedown. If you were here, we'd be going to open mic nights at Phoenix. If you were here, you'd be frequenting your preferred coffee shops, depending on which was your favorite at the time. Nikki's, Arabica, Caribou, Phoenix Lee, Phoenix Coventry, Rising Star, Starbucks on Lee Mayfield, Six Shooters, etc. If you were here, we'd be getting a sandwich at Jack's or at Davis or at Quirky and Lenny's. If you were here, we'd be getting dim sum. If you were here, we'd go to Tommy's. If you were here, you'd be leading the Seder or watching us blow out candles. If you were here, you'd be driving to Jersey. All of these places will be emptier and quieter without you. Dad, thank you for being you. There was never, ever a dull moment with you. We just didn't get enough time together, and you died too young. And I know if you had it your way, you'd live until you were 150, and watch all of us have kids, and then watch our kids have kids, and fix furnaces and drink coffee forever. I tell you that you were exceptional. I don't know anyone else like you. You were just one of a kind. I am so grateful to have known you and to have spent so many perfectly imperfect years with you. I'd also tell you that you lived such a full life. I'd remind you that you started your own business in 1983, 3 years after moving to Cleveland, 2 years after your mom died, and how for decades to come, this business helped you build a name for yourself that you could feel proud of. I tell you that you had an incredible memory, that even during the last couple months before you died, you could recall the name of the restaurant that you and Mom ate in Oberlin in the early 80s. You could remember people's phone numbers and addresses and maiden names. From hearing the description of someone's basement, you could recall who lived there, what they did for a living, how many kids they had, where they grew up, and if they had pets. And if you couldn't, you could remember who lived there before they did. I tell you that you did good. I tell you that your parents are proud of you. I tell you that we're proud to have known you. I tell you that Cleveland much. I tell you that the cats are fine too, that they were just a little freaked out, but that they're as cute as ever, and that they honestly just want more kibbles. I tell you that the day you died, May 26th, was when Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club was released in 1967. I'll always remember you in your work boots, your morning jeans, a stocking cap, and one of your mic seating and cooling work shirts, stained with the dirt of the trade, pipe dope and soot, with a pressure gauge or a screwdriver in your pocket. I'll remember you giving us piggyback rides. I'll remember you, especially in your last year, saying, "Here, honey, eat some of this." You wanted Mom to think that you ate more of your food than you did. But you also just wanted to feed us. I tell you that we did our best to make today beautiful and uplifting, a celebration of your life, just like you asked for. I'd remind you that the plot where we will bury you today is in Lakeview Cemetery, near to the house where you and Mom first met when you lived on Coventry, and near to the neighborhood where you raised us. After this service, we'll carry you there and each give you a final gift by covering you with a shovel full of earth. Then we will have a Shiva at our house, the house where we have lived for almost 3 decades, a house that has seen it all, the house that has protected our family and that will always be home. I tell you that we'll play your favorite music and that people will tell stories about you and eat bagels with lox and do impressions of you, like you asked for. We'll look at old photos of you and Mom and of the family you two made. We will keep your memory alive with these impressions, and through the stories we'll continue to tell and be told. I tell you that we'll cry for you, but we'll feel comforted by having known you. I tell you what someone told you a couple days before you died, that the world is a better place for having had you in it, and that we are better for having known you. I tell you how grateful I am for the family and community you've built for us. I tell you how comforting it has been to have so many people have held us for the last few weeks of your life, and through the last week since we lost you. They have been full of hugs, tears, and food. It has made losing you more bearable and more beautiful than I ever thought it could be. People called and told us how you changed their lives, how they were grateful to have known you, how you got them jobs when they were desperate for work, how you fixed their heat or air conditioning in the middle of the night or in the middle of the snowstorm, how you rushed over for a service call and then stayed for hours chatting, telling stories and wrestling with their dogs. I'd remind you of how many people came to the house to say goodbye to you in your last days, and how they're all going to miss you so much. I'd remind you about all the tough guys I saw weeping at your bedside, telling you how much they love you, and I'd tell you that they heard you saying it back. I know I am not alone in missing you, and I know I'm not the only one on whom you made an impact. You are leaving behind a whole community of people who loved you and who you loved. If you were here right now, I'd remind you of how determined you were to live, and how hard you fought to continue doing so. How hospice told us that it was clear to them by the way you went out that you were having a hard time letting us go. How your pulmonologist called Mommy and told her that what you do have is unique and special and not something you see every day. How he cried. I tell you how your primary care physician called and we held the phone up to you. How he told you that you fought a good fight. How one of your cardiologists said she'd never seen a patient fight as hard or for as long as you did to be well. Dad, I'm so sorry that you suffered for so long. If you were here, I tell you I'm sorry your body failed you. I tell you that watching you suffer these past few years and having you die are the hardest things I've ever done. A couple weeks before you died, you asked us to promise you we would do impressions of you. you weren't scared to die, but that you were just going to miss us. You asked us to tell you what we'd learned from you. If you were here, I'd remind you how I tried to answer your question. That you taught me to have the courage to make my life whatever I want it to be, just like you did. But I'd also say what I didn't know how to say at the time. You taught us that a life serving others is a life worth living. That sometimes driving out of your way to pick up a sub from the favorite sub shop of someone you met twice, who used to live in New Jersey's third cousin, sometimes is just worth it. You say, people remember that kind of thing. I tell you how much I appreciate all the times you and Mom drove to and from New Jersey, how you made sure that we never missed a funeral, a wedding, or a bar mitzvah, even when it was blizzarding. You taught me to enjoy looking at old photos, to ask about my family members who died when I was little, or those who I never met, and to memorize our family tree. You taught us that family is important. I tell you how you taught me that everyone deserves to be treated with respect, regardless of if you're a stockbroker, a plumber, a professor, a cashier, a nurse, or a barista. I tell you that you taught me to treat everyone with kindness. You always said that you never know what someone is going through. You always said, be kind. I tell you that another thing you taught me is to love people for all of them. You taught me to understand that we are all flawed, complex people with our own stories, and that imperfection makes us who we are. Dad, you weren't always an easy person to have as a father. You could be hard on us, you weren't always the most demonstrative, and you spent a lot of time not at home. Much of it spent kibitzing with anyone and everyone. I now understand that it's as simple as this. You spent your life talking to us about people in the community and talking to people in the community about us. I understand now that I think maybe you found comfort in talking to people, in hearing their stories, in learning about their lives, their families, their backgrounds. I look through family photos and I hear from all these people who knew you, and I think, how could I not have understood how proud of us you were? Dad, if you were here today, I would tell you that the cup of coffee you stopped for in Cleveland in spring of 1980, and the fact that you stayed determined my entire life. I'd tell you that marrying Mom meant that we got to grow up with the kindest, most patient person out there. In your words, she's the nicest person. If you can't get along with Christy, then you have a serious problem. I tell you that you picked a beautiful neighborhood to raise us in and that you made me who I am today. I tell you that you gave me the greatest gift by being my dad, by giving me some of the things people love most about you, and some of the things about myself that I am most proud of. Your genuine interest in people, your sincere eagerness to help them, and your pride in your family. You raised 3 daughters who are brave and resilient and really care about helping people. I know we always laugh when you and Mommy get overwhelmed when we're being too loud and you can't get a word in edgewise. But you raised 3 loud, talkative, opinionated, funny girls who are just like you. Aren't you glad? Now no one will be able to get rid of you for decades to come. If you were here today, I would tell you that I'm so proud I get to call you my dad, and that you were so, so loved. I would tell you the truth, that the world lost you way too soon, and that you will be so, so missed.
Thank you, Anna. Friends, normally at this point in our service, I would mention the name or the names of some charities that the family has suggested you might consider if you wanted to make a contribution in memory of their beloved. Mike actually has taken control of this part of the service, and he has requested that the following be read. In lieu of flowers, Mike requested that those wishing to honor his memory adopt a cat in need. Alternatively, he suggested that you can also purchase and eat a deli sandwich of your choosing. But he mentioned that for those looking to perform tzedakah, which is our Hebrew word for charitable acts, those looking to perform tzedakah in his memory, that Mike and the family encourages everyone to perhaps donate resources or take direct action in your community by connecting with local service organizations supporting neighbors in need. And how beautiful is that? Friends, in a moment I will chant for you the words of the Yalmalei Rachamim, the memorial prayer, in which we ask God to accept Michael's soul. Following the chanting of this prayer, we will then process to the Lakeview Cemetery for the interment. And following that ceremony, the family will receive visitors at their residence at 1796 Wilton Road in Cleveland Heights, today until 8 p.m. this evening. So as you are able, I invite you now to please rise for the closing prayer that Yalmalei Rachamim. Yalmalei Rachamim shochen במרומים, עמסי מנוחה נכונה תחת כנפי השכינה, במעלות קדושים וטהורים כזוכר הרקיע מסיירים, את נשמת יונתן מיכאל בן דבורה ויוסו, שהלך לעולמו בגן עדן במנוחתו. אנא ברחמים אסירך ובסתר כנפיך לעולמים, בתצרור חיים את נשמתו. אדוני כבוד נחלתו, וינוח בשלום על משכבו, ונאמר Amen. O merciful God, who dwells on high, who is full of compassion, grant perfect rest beneath the shelter of your divine presence among the holy and pure, who shine as the brightness of the firmament. To our dear departed Michael Borkan, who is remembered by the Hebrew name of Yonatan Michael ben Devorah V'Yosel. To Mike, who has gone now to his eternal home, we pray that his soul will be bound up in the bonds of eternal life, and grant that his memory inspire all of us to noble and consecrated living. And to this we say, Amen. Amen. Friends, please be seated. This concludes our service here. On behalf of Christy and the entire family, we thank all of you for your love and your support on this sad yet very important day. As you've come here in peace today, may you go forth in peace.